I've worked at CoreCivic for 32 years, and this is truly one of the most exciting periods in my career with the company. Having just wrapped up a strong 2024, we're anticipating significant growth opportunities, perhaps the most significant growth in our company's history over the next several years. We believe CoreCivic is exceptionally well-positioned operationally and financially to meet what we expect to be a sharp acceleration in demand from our partners, particularly our key federal partners, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and the United States Marshal Service. The change in presidential administration on January 20th has ushered in significant policy and legislative changes that directly impact our business.
The absolute goal, celebrating profiting off of human suffering via mass incarceration, is Damon Hininger, CEO of CoreCivic, one of the two biggest private prison corporations in the country. Hininger has spent decades climbing the corporate ladder of this disgusting industry, going from a correctional officer at a private detention center to the man calling the shots on how many more people need to be locked up for CoreCivic's stock price to rise.
ICE has estimated that this act could require 60,000 to 110,000 additional detention beds. We expect increased demand to come from the United States Marshal Service, which could require an additional 10,000 or more beds over the next several years based on past usage. We are engaged in active conversations with ICE and the United States Marshal Service in preparation for their increased secure bed needs. The detention beds supplied by the private sector are the least expensive, most humane, most efficient logistically, have the highest audit compliance scores in the system, and are readily available. Additionally, with 42 years of operating experience with ICE, the private sector beds are the least likely to be legally challenged.
And if you listen to his words carefully, the language he's using should terrify you. He talks about imprisoning people, specifically undocumented immigrants, like it's a corporate expansion strategy, not a humanitarian crisis. He's packaging mass incarceration in the same corporate buzzwords they use to sell a product. The way he describes the growth potential of CoreCivic's facility should make every single person watching this realize that the prison industrial complex isn't about justice. It's about profit. You know, there's a reason why we always say just follow the money. In the wake of Trump's election victory, CoreCivic's stock price shot up from around $13 a share to nearly $24, just days after the election. And surprise, surprise, CoreCivic's PAC, it funneled $300,000 to a joint Trump campaign and RNC fundraising committee in 24, then sent another $500,000 to Trump-Vance inaugural committee in December. They did the same in 2016, handing the Trump-Pence inaugural committee $250,000. They're literally buying the policies they need to keep the money flowing. And if that means throwing more people in cages, so be it.
Because in the guise and in the wake of tragedy, we are seeing a fundamental erosion of our civil rights. In this bill, if a person is so much as accused of a crime, if someone wants to point a finger and accuse someone of shoplifting, they will be rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation without a day in court, without a moment to assert their right and without a moment to assert the privilege of innocent until proven guilty. Without being found guilty of a crime, they will be rounded up. That is what is inside this bill, a fundamental suspension of a core American value. Mr. Speaker, you may wonder why so many of our friends across the aisle who care so deeply about the rule of law happen to be so desperate to pass this bill. Look no further than the price tag of this bill, $83 billion. They know that it can't be paid for. They know that the capacity is not there. And you know what will be there? Private prison companies are going to get flooded with money, who give this money, no doubt. I want folks at home to look. Look at what members of Congress are invested in private prison companies who receive this kind of money, and look at the votes on this bill. It is atrocious that people are lining their pockets with private prison profits in the name of a horrific tragedy and the victim of a crime. It is shameful. It is absolutely shameful. And Mr. Speaker, I'll conclude with this. In a few months, there are members of Congress who voted for this bill who are going to pretend they didn't know about all the bad things that are going to happen because of it. So when a private prison camp opens in your town, when a dreamer...
Time has expired.
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
So when a private prison camp opens in your town and they say, we didn't know this was going to happen, know that they did, and they voted for it. When a dreamer is disappeared from your classroom, when the President of the United States destroys what is left of the Constitution as he's announced in this attack on birthright citizenship, they will all say, we didn't know this was coming. And I want the American people to know that they did. This vote represents it.
And just in case you still can't wrap your head around why investing in and expanding private for-profit prisons is absurdly immoral, these are just some of the thousands of horror stories coming out of CoreCivic's facilities. We're talking about facilities where human beings are pepper sprayed for protesting inhumane conditions, where prisoners are left to suffer in filth, where medical care is an afterthought because cutting costs means higher profits. Every single one of these abuses isn't a failure of the system. It is the system.
These women were told they had to sign in order to get a face mask, a contract that said they would not hold CoreCivic, which runs this for-profit prison, responsible?
Yes, Amy, that is what happened. They were given forms and told, if they had to sign this form, which was only given in English. There are people inside this detention center that don't know Spanish or English at all. But this form was only given in English, and people were just told, sign it quickly. If not, you don't get a mask, is what was basically said. It's inhumane. There has been a block of just for legal, for people to contact their lawyers, all kinds of blockages right now that make it impossible so that people can have their rights of, finishing or processing their asylum cases, right, in most of these times. And so that is, they're just being held in a death trap is what they're being held. And
most of these detainees are not wearing any mask anymore because we back in our unit, we try to keep it clean. They don't allow us to go outside. They lock us up at least 18 hours a day now, and they're giving us 3 times a day bologna sandwiches. So basically, CoreCivic is telling us they do not care about our health. They do not care about anything else but their bottom line. So this is not a place where you can be comfortable. They make it very difficult for you to breathe.
Un tiempo que ya estaba la enfermedad allí y no nos dieron el tapaboca hasta creo que una semana después llegaron exigiendo de que teníamos que firmar un documento como que el CoreCivic evadía de cualquier responsabilidad de que nos pasara a nosotros allí.
CoreCivic and companies like it are proof that capitalism necessitates the existence of cruel, immoral businesses. Private prisons should not exist. The idea that corporations should be allowed to profit off of locking people in cages is beyond dystopian. It's a crime against humanity. And yet here we are in a country where the people making the laws are being bankrolled by the companies profiting off of mass incarceration. If that doesn't enrage you, I don't know what will. Private prisons should be completely abolished and outlawed. No company should ever be allowed to make money from imprisoning people. But as long as we have a government that lets billionaires like Damon Hininger turn human lives into stock market gains, this industry will keep thriving. The only way to stop it is to take the power away from the corporations and put it back in the hands of the people.